What are organisms? Dr. Joan Strassman and David Quayler are evolutionary biologists who are quoted as saying, "We propose that what makes an organism is nearly complete cooperation, with strong control of intra-organism conflicts and no affiliations above the level of organism as unified as those at the organism level. Organisms can be made up of like units, which we call fraternal organisms, or different units, making them egalitarian organisms." So 2 important questions. What entities qualify as an organism, and how organisms evolve, and particularly how do they deal with conflict? A fundamental distinction is whether members are similar kinds of units or different kinds of units. Quayler has called these 2 kinds of collaborations fraternal and egalitarian after 2 prongs of the French Revolutionary slogan. So let's talk about these 2 types. Fraternal organisms comprised of like units include multicellular organisms and those made up of multiple individuals of the same species. They are held together by kinship, and some units may therefore sacrifice themselves for others who will transmit the same genes. Some examples are cats, dogs, lizards, and butterflies. The next is egalitarian organisms. By contrast, these are comprised of dissimilar units and include the bacterial cell, eukaryotic cell, and some other symbiosis. Considering Dr. Strassman and Quayler have categorized organisms into 2 categories, there are going to be some that don't fit. These are organisms that have far too much conflict and also those that lack cooperation. If cooperation is of the egalitarian form with multiple partners, the initial synergistic advantages usually arise from an intermediate division of labor. These advantages can be huge. The more tightly the interests of one partner can be bound to the interests of the other, the more cooperation will prevail. For example, an aphid clone that is not a gal-forming species is not normally organismal because the aphids do not do much for each other. They are genetically identical and have the same potential interests, but their actual behavior is not cooperative enough to be organismal. The same is true for other clones such as armadillo litters. Reduction of potential conflict is important in both fraternal and egalitarian organisms, but if organism members are not identical, there is a window for conflict. Now, how is organismality achieved? 1. There must be synergistic advantage to cooperation that make it more than a zero-sum game. 2. Some conditions must largely align the reproductive interests of both parties. And 3. When potential conflicts remain, they must be suppressed by some mechanism for organismality to be achieved. The 3 factors discussed favor organismality, but organisms are sufficiently diverse and complex. No one of them is an absolute blueprint for making an alliance into an organism. In concluding, Strassman and Quayler have identified some important features, but few seem to be universally important. Genetic relatedness is crucial in some organisms, but not others. A quote from the evolutionary biologist sums this up very well. "The organism is the frontier of the adapted world. Inside it there is a harmonious teamwork. Outside it there is conflict and confusion. So, what do you think an organism is?" Thanks for watching, and be sure to comment.